Welcome to Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Let's take a look at the headlines. The Prime Minister delivers closing statements on this year's budget. Arts and Multiculturalism Minister says the long-awaited Pan Trinbago headquarters will be completed within the next year. And Trade and Industry Minister says government plans to use the financial sector as a key player in its bid to diversify the economy. Thank you for joining us. Prime Minister the Honourable Kamla Persad-Bissessar delivered closing statements on this year's budget by expressing government's commitment to delivering equity, that should be, to all citizens. Speaking just minutes before it received passing in the Lower House, Prime Minister Persad-Bissessar says 2012-2013 or the 2012-2013 budget is one that reflects this principle of patriotism.
Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar says this year's fiscal package has received numerous positive reviews. The Prime Minister gave the comments during the closing of the debate in the Lower House, where she says it's necessary to take points given in the commentary as it's the voice of the people they represent. She assures that government is committed to ensuring equality, freedom and progress for all citizens.
All the commentaries coming in are very positive views for Budget 2013, Mr. Speaker. And why is it important that we look at the reviews, both, as I say, constructive criticism as well as the positive reviews? Indeed, as I say, we have always demonstrated we are a government that is willing to listen first and then lead. And so we will take on board the criticisms, as I say, the constructive criticisms coming from here and elsewhere. The
Prime Minister took the opportunity to call on all members of Parliament to use the budget as a guide in serving and providing for the people.
This budget, any budget, is a blueprint for the future, as I said. And this particular budget comes at a critical time in our country's economy and in the world's economy, at a time when such economies are ready to come back from the edge of a global economic downturn. And therefore, it should not really become a tool in petty debate for political gain. Instead, I ask the honourable members on the other side, as I indeed ask on this side, that we put aside the natural instinct to oppose and instead to pick up responsibility we all share as representatives of the people and to represent people honestly, frankly and deliberately.
She adds that this budget is unlike any other as it seeks to provide for each and every citizen through initiatives that will reach communities across Trinidad and Tobago.
A better commitment to crime prevention, a commitment to better jobs, a commitment to better wages, a commitment to more economic development, a commitment to better health care for all, better schools for children and for their children. These are things I think both sides, and indeed every right-thinking citizen, will agree that we will all agree on these matters.
In closing statement, she pledged to mobilize all resources in a systematic and organized manner to tackle issues such as crime, fiscal debt and poverty. Kimberly Ramkalawan, News 4.
Finance Minister the Honourable Larry Hawaii wrapped up this year's budget debate in the Lower House, giving passage to this year's fiscal package. The minister closing the debate describes the comments received as constructive and will work towards an improvement in delivery of services to the public, while at the same time ensuring a balance in funds.
The budget for 2012-2013 fiscal year has been passed in the Lower House with the required simple majority. Finance Minister Larry Hawaii brought the week-long debate to an end, thanking all those who participated and gave contributions.
The closing of any debate, especially one as important as the national budget, provides the opportunity for political theatre. But nonetheless, I believe it is also a moment for sober reflection as we contemplate the challenges and opportunities before us. I thank each member for the contributions made over the past few days in this Honourable House. These contributions have been helpful in identifying areas where further clarification is required or more thought needed.
Meanwhile, Minister Hawaii sought to clear the air on the increase in premium gas prices, in which questions were asked on a possible breach in the Petroleum Levy and Subsidy Act by the raising of the price.
I have received the opinion of attorneys from the Ministry of Energy and Energy Affairs, and I wish to state categorically that there has been no breach of the petroleum production levy. This levy is paid into a fund, the Petroleum Products Subsidy Fund. The levy is placed into this collective fund, and monies utilized go towards the subsidy payment on petroleum products. There is no distinction made between the individual subsidy amounts on the various fuels in the law as regards the application of the levy collected.
Expressing confidence in the closing of the debate, the minister says the budget gives opportunity for stimulus and improving growth, while at the same time satisfying the needs of the population.
We have identified a clear strategy for achieving our goals. We have established a roadmap to bring our budget into balance. We shall balance the need for creating the confidence and trust of our citizens in our fiscal position with the need for supporting growth and development and for generating quality jobs and prosperity. The maintenance of stimulus will underpin our growth dynamics, which are being anchored on an increasing private sector involvement in the economy and improving competitiveness.
It's expected that the debate on the budget in the Senate will commence at the end of this week. Kimberly Ramkalawan, News 4.
News 4 continues after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Good news coming from the Minister of Arts and Multiculturalism, Dr. the Honorable Lincoln Douglas, who says the long-awaited Pantrinbago headquarters will be completed within the year.
Speaking during the budget debate, the Minister of Arts and Multiculturalism made a promise to have work on the Tri-City headquarters of Pantrinbago completed very soon. Speaking in the House of Representatives, Dr. Douglas says that within the year his ministry is going to complete the Pantrinbago headquarters.
These are some of the groups that we've met with. We've met with our own stakeholders, NCC, TUCO, Pantrinbago. We've met with the Chutney Foundation, TASA Foundation, NCBA, NCDF, Naparima Bowl, Queen Saul. I've met with the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, National Parang Association, the First Peoples, the Carib people, the Waraho people. I'm not just talking about meeting a man on the street and saying, hey, Waraho, how you doing? I'm talking about having a meeting with my permanent secretary, deputy permanent secretary, and advisors, meet with all of these organizations. We've met with the Pichikari people, we've met with Ramlila people, we've met with the Artists Coalition, with Muslims Women Association, Ethiopian Orthodox Youth, the Mahasaba. We have met with all of these people.
Dr. Douglas also weighed in on carnival celebrations carded for 2013. He answered that his ministry has already planned out a series of activities that will make the festival an experience one of its best than in previous years.
We also propose to forge greater partnerships with the private sector. The Honorable Minister of Finance has indicated incentives such as 150% tax relief for business and corporations who make contribution to arts and the artistic organization and for organizations that are registered with the Artist Registry. And so we continue to create ways that would stimulate the artistic and the creative industry. We continue to collaborate not only with organizations but with ministries. We are collaborating with the Ministry of Legal Affairs, and I've had a meeting with the Minister of Legal Affairs about rights and copyrights and intellectual property that we need to secure the major works of arts and production that we are doing in Trinidad and Tobago.
The minister says the ministry spent $2.6 million to support non-sponsored steel band groups in the last year and $1.4 million for other cultural groups. He says the ministry will launch a cultural policy on October 29th and 31st.
We have the creation of mass, and I have recently been talking about initiating a study, Mr. Speaker, on the use of carnival for bringing peace and harmony to nations that are troubled by war and internal strife. Not just for playing mass sake. We have come to enjoy it in its raw sense, that it's a wonderful thing to us. But we know here in Trinidad and Tobago that when it's carnival season, there ain't no fighting going on, nobody is killing nobody, nobody is shooting nobody.
He says a wide range of organizations had been consulted on the new policy which will be released for comment. These organizations include the NCC, TUCO, Naprima Bowl, Carib Community, Mahasaba, the Emancipation Support Committee. Even diplomats were consulted, he says, including the India, Colombia and Latin America. The minister called for a study of Carnival to ensure that its lessons can be exported to other nations where armed conflict is rampant. He says the ministry has received requests from Ghana, Nigeria, Latin American nations like Colombia in this regard.
We are proposing closer links with international organizations. Mr. Speaker, it will interest you to know that we have received repeated requests from African countries, in particular to participate in mass, to come here to participate in mass, for us to go there and create mass. Ghana, Uganda, Senegal, Nigeria, South Africa, from Latin American countries, Colombia, from, it goes on, Mr. Speaker. We must not forget that that Trinidadians in the diaspora from Toronto, New York, they have a duty to maintain the art form which they model their various carnivals on throughout the world. Carnival is a spectacle and it's spectacular.
Joseph Lopez, News 4.
Trade and Industry Minister, Senator the Honorable Vasant Bharat says government plans to use the financial sector as a key player in its bid to diversify the economy away from oil and gas. He was speaking at the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Trinidad and Tobago's annual International Finance and Accounting Conference.
This is an area and it's an issue that is at the heart of some major discussions the government is having right now with regard to using financial services as part of our diversification strategy. And when you come down and you talk about the issues of business process reengineering, a lot of it has to do with focus, determining what you can be good at and determining how you can deliver that in the most efficient manner.
Trade and Industry Minister, Senator the Honorable Vasant Bharat at the Hyatt Regency. Minister Bharat recalled the frustrations faced by investors wishing to invest in this country not too long ago.
InvestTT was one of 13 organizations spanning 3 ministries that was responsible for the promotion of trade and the facilitation of investments into Trinidad and Tobago. Can you imagine the absolute confusion in the minds of an investor who came to Trinidad and Tobago to look at investing in any sector and was now confronted with having the possibility of going to 13 different organizations across 3 different ministries, all with a different marketing message, all with a different board of directors, all with a completely different management structure, all with a different goal? Can you imagine the horror and the nightmare? And can you imagine that this has actually happened and gone on for years, where investors, investment opportunities would have been lost to this country because of the frustration involved in the processes that existed?
The minister is now boasting of the ease with which investors can now invest in this country.
What we've done now, through Cabinet of course, is that we now have one investment portal for Trinidad and Tobago called InvestTT. So any investor arriving in Trinidad and Tobago must come to InvestTT first and then is directed to the necessary institutions that would be in a position to help them. The second issue I found out about from InvestTT, I said to them, I would like to understand the kinds of projects and the status of those projects that you're working on.
Vuna Bharat, News 4.
Sport is up right after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. With sport featuring prominently in the 2012-2013 budget, sporting organizations are set to benefit tremendously from programs and initiatives under the Ministry of Sport and the Sport Company of Trinidad and Tobago. Wayne Cunningham sat down with the Honorable Anil Roberts, Minister of Sport, and discussed the readiness of sporting organizations going forward.
There's a synergy now between the sport company, the Ministry of Sport, all under the permanent secretary, who's the public servant, the accounting officer. So there's accountability, transparency. The service level agreements with the NGBs has been created in a more detailed manner. A lot of accountability and transparency is there. NGBs that do not come up to the standard of reporting, accounting, and spending money as you state, because you might say our vision is 60% average on development and 40% on the elite, so that we link with the national sport policy. But if you say you're going to do that, but you don't, you now fall into a tier system for sporting organizations.
The sport minister went on to explain the tier system regarding accountability for national sporting organizations.
Tier 1 means you are A class in reporting and accountability, and therefore you are entrusted with the people's money to conduct your affairs. So you get your money up front, so to speak. Other associations who are found wanting will be Tier 2, which means you come to line item. So let's say you have a football team and you would like them to go to a tournament. You could present any budget you want. It will go through, the officials will go through the fine-tooth comb and say, this is what we will make available to you. However, you're not getting it. You're not getting money in your hands. You're not getting a check. You're not depositing anything. You write the individuals, whether it's sport company or the ministry officials, and you say, all right, we have 32 people to go to Honduras, and they will organize the tickets. In Honduras, you have a hotel, they will pay the hotel. And that's how it will go from henceforth.
Ministry officials are implementing systems to monitor the proper distribution of funds.
Knowing that the ministry doesn't fund 100%, many people put in a budget request of 300%, and so if they get 1/3, they get 100%. Well, all of those things over the last 2 years have been thrashed out, and if you continuously bring in fraudulent documents or inflated budgets, you will go down to a Tier 2. It's very simple. So we're not ready yet, but we're getting there. But we must also say that these sporting organizations, the swimming association, archery, shooting, auto sport, whatever it is, powerboat racing, cricket, football, are very important, because we have to sell Trinidad and Tobago. Our athletes are our advertisement and our ambassadors.
The strategy of using sport personalities to sell Trinidad and Tobago internationally is well thought out and has already been implemented.
The linkages that are formed within the associations must work clearly with the sport company, the Ministry of Sport, the Ministry of Tourism, the Ministry of Planning and Development, in order to ensure that we get the revenue here. So advertising Trinidad and Tobago is one thing, playing well, getting out there, building facilities, but getting people to use our facilities is the last part. Also, we must audit. I cannot go to a minister like Larry Howard and say, hey, I feel I get 10,000 people here last year. No. He will laugh me out of that tall building, that financial complex, straight back here into this short building. So I have to be able to say, listen, specific manner, this is the number. We had a golf tournament in Tobago. It attracted 53 players, 42 officials, and 28 fans who stayed. We have to give them real numbers.
Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sports.
News 4 continues after the break. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Energy Minister, the Honorable Senator Kevin Ramnarine, says government has a solution to the fuel subsidy issue in this country. Speaking with reporters at the launch of the hybrid car, the Energy Minister says hybrid will soon be the way to go.
For a long time in the ministry now, we have been discussing hybrid vehicles as one of the solutions to our fuel subsidy issue in Trinidad, which of course has become very topical in the budget debate. As has been reported, the fuel subsidy is $4.4 billion for the last fiscal year, of which the oil companies will contribute $0.7 billion to meeting that bill, and the government will pick up the other $3.7 billion. So as a country, from a policy point of view, we have to look at ways of tackling that fuel subsidy.
Energy Minister Senator Kevin Ramnarine says the use of hybrid vehicles is now being practiced across many developing countries.
One of the more popular technologies that has taken hold in the more developed countries recently is hybrid vehicles. And what we have behind us here is a hybrid vehicle, which has been purchased by the Ministry of Energy. I'm advised it's the first hybrid vehicle to be purchased in Trinidad and Tobago. There are 3 other hybrids in Trinidad, which are vehicles that were brought to Trinidad by returning nationals.
He says it is quite economical with its greater fuel efficiency. The minister went on to explain how convenient and versatile the hybrid vehicles are.
The vehicle behind you, I'm advised it gets about 50 miles to the gallon, and its equivalent would get about 30 miles. About 30 miles to the gallon. So the fuel efficiency is a lot higher with the hybrid. What you see behind you here is a vehicle that simply requires gasoline. There's no need to plug in that vehicle. The motion of the wheels as the car moves charges a battery, and at the opportune time when the battery is charged, the vehicle switches to the battery.
Minister Ramnarine says government has been discussing possible ways of making hybrid vehicles more affordable to the public.
The Ministry of Energy and the Ministry of Finance have been in discussions over the last couple of months about how we can make hybrid vehicles more affordable and accessible to the Trinidad and Tobago motoring public. And we are looking at several options right now with the Ministry of Finance, and this will be part of that discussion that Minister Hawaii spoke about in his budget contribution with regard to a committee that he had set up that includes myself to look at different ways of tackling the subsidy.
Verna Barath, News 4.
Government employees can now access certified Microsoft software programs at a minimal cost. This is a result of the launch of a collaborative effort between the government of Trinidad and Tobago and software giant Microsoft.
The recently launched Home Use program allows government employees to have access to Microsoft applications software. The software, when downloaded, can be used at home on their personal computer or mobile device. Public servants can download up to 4 Microsoft application software for installation. The programs include Microsoft Office SharePoint Designer for home use, Microsoft Office for home use, Microsoft Project for home use, and Microsoft Visio Professional for home use. They will be downloaded for the minimal cost of $9 US. The programs usually start at around $200 US. Public servants wishing to download and access the software will require an access code. The code will be given to permanent secretaries, who will in turn distribute it to employees and government agencies under their purview. Speaking at the launch, Minister of Science and Technology Dr. the Honorable Rupert Griffith says the program displays this government's emphasis on information and communication technology and human capital development. He insists that this effort will reap benefits which can be enjoyed by the government, public servants, and even their families.
Government's agreement with the international software giant Microsoft to make available to Trinidad and Tobago's public servants Microsoft Home Use program is therefore a natural expression of this administration's philosophy of human capital development. This, as the Home Use Program initiative dovetails with government's stated aims of development in the ICT sector and the nation's human capital. This, as it allows easy access to update software to private use, and so will redound to the personal development of public servants. This benefits all involved, as private citizens will gain impressive access to current software, while the public sector receives remuneration in the form of employment that are well versed in the use of software available to them under the HUP program.
Gregory McBurney, News 4.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barreto. Thank you so much for joining us.